Hey everybody, so I'm about to get started. I just want to give people a little bit of time to get into the space. I'm going to be checking in the chat on two screens. Also, I'll say really quickly that last time I wasn't able to post. I almost wasn't able to post on YouTube because they heard music being played in the background. So I've got to figure that out at some point. Hey, thanks for joining, you guys. All right, so here's how it's going to work today. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run through all 12 zodiac signs so you can listen for your sun, moon, or rising sign. This is all the readings for September. So you don't have to come on camera. You're welcome to if you want to. You can put on a filter if you don't feel camera ready, by the way. But you don't have to come on camera if you don't want to. I will probably sprinkle in like a couple of little personal readings just because I appreciate when people come in and hang out with me. So either way, go ahead and type in whatever sign you want to hear first. Otherwise, I have a list and I will be going like in order of the signs that are on my list so that I don't forget anyone or repeat any of the signs. So you can go ahead and throw whichever zodiac sign you want to hear first in the chat, and I will read that first. I'm actually going to also see, I haven't done this before, but I'm going to try, I wonder if I do that, if I do the do not disturb, if that will... let's see if that'll actually work for while we're on. And I wonder if that actually works. You guys let me know if you can actually still hear me in the chat. I think that you can. All right, so if not, I'm gonna start with, I'll go ahead and start with Aries unless I see somebody type a zodiac sign in the chat. Now, these are not personal readings, so remember that. These are collective readings for the month of September. So that's what these are. I will do general readings for all of the signs unless, let's say that you throw out Capricorn. And so then you can help direct what I read about for all of the Capricorns. So if you want it to be around love or finances or whatever it is, then I can direct it. But again, it's not a personal reading, it's a collective reading. So feel free to put that in the chat. Otherwise, I'm just gonna go ahead and get started. Also, just so you guys know, I have a brand new deck that I am super stoked to be using. I've only used it a few times privately, just kind of getting to know the deck, and I gotta say I'm pretty stoked about it. So, are there any people, no signs to go first? Okay, then I'm gonna go ahead and get started with I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the signs that I see on my list first. So I'll start with Aries. So Aries, this is for Aries sun, moon, or rising sign, okay? So Aries sun, moon, or rising. I'm gonna do the first card out to get an overall of like what the energy is. I don't do reversals. Did I have my deck upside down? I did. I had my deck upside down. So we have the Two of Crystals, right? And so one of the things that I'll tell you guys about this deck that I think is really, really cool is that the crystals are actually the swords in this particular deck, which I think is really rad because like swords, crystals, you know, that kind of quality. So first card out for the Aries for the month of September. This is the overall feeling that we have for month of September, right? So Aries, we've got the Two of Crystals. Seems like you're kind of in your head about trying to figure out which direction do you want to go with something, right? Usually with the Two of Swords, Two of Crystals, we're looking at what a decision between this path or this path, right? Kind of trying to weigh things out. This is also about you tuning into your intuition, really getting tuned into like your inner navigational system and not just being up in your head about it, right? Because this is a very air-like kind of card, and it can mean sometimes we get stuck up in our head a little bit too much. So want to stay away from being stuck up in your head. The decision isn't going to come from you just being in a cerebral space. You'll want to actually get into your intuitive space. So if you need to like close your eyes, tune in, get in touch with your gut, and that's what we have for like the overall feeling for the month of September for you, Aries, okay? Now remember, this is for Aries sun, moon, or rising, so you can listen to the rest of your signs if you would like. So, King of Crystals, there's a lot of cerebral energy going on for such a fiery fire sign. Okay, and then one more. So, all right, so taking a look at the progression through the month of September for you, Aries, cat hair. So taking a look at the progression for the month for you, we have the King of Crystals showing up. So I think you're starting out the month again, like in this very cerebral place, just really trying to make a decision. You know, when you're stepping into the King of Crystals energy is very much like very decisive, can go a little bit cold. So you want to watch out for being a little bit too cold about the decision-making process. Removing your emotions from taking over making a decision in whatever important decisions in your life is healthy, right? But doing too much of that and removing your emotions completely and being completely cerebral and logical about it is not really going to serve you. So once again, you want to like be able to balance like your cerebral energy. The King of Crystals is also an energy of like being really like scientifically minded, really being intelligent about the decisions that you make and really communicating clearly. So if there are people that you are involved in the process of making these decisions, make sure that you're on point with your communication, like, and make sure that it's not cold. All right. So next up we have the more crystals. I didn't even notice this. We have the 5 of crystals, right? So, you know, and here's like one of those situations where it's like if you are having to make decisions that involve other people in the process of like in the month of September. Now, also recognizing that we're coming into Mercury retrograde at the beginning of September here, within the first few days of September. So now Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap. However, it does involve our communication as well as many other things. And what it has us really pay attention to is being more mindful and tactful about the kind of communication that we have. So when we have the kind of 5 of crystals energy, this is just kind of like, you know, be careful about how you're trying to win these arguments or win these situations, and if you're doing it at a cost. You know, often with this particular card, it's like there's a winner and there's a loser when there doesn't necessarily need to be. So I would be like looking at where there's a win-win situation for everyone involved if possible. And also if there isn't, if this is just a situation where there's some hard, cold truths to what needs to be said or how things need to happen, make sure that you're doing it in a way that's really diplomatic, right? So you want to be careful about the way that you're going about doing this. This can also mean that there's some conflict. I will say this came through right now too. For any of you Aries, Sun, Moon, or Rising that are dealing with any kind of legal issues, I want you to be really concerned and aware about like really looking over every single angle of what's occurring in this experience that you have, right? So legal issues, if you're on the side of a situation that maybe doesn't look so great for you, if there's any way to stall it out for a few weeks and see if you can push the date back a little bit to give yourself a little bit more time, I would do that. This isn't necessarily the best card for any kind of people who are going through some legal stuff specifically. Now keep in mind that these are collective readings again, so there's only so much that I can kind of read into, and if this is your message, great, it's your message. If it's not, then, you know, maybe listen to your moon sign or your rising sign, or get a personal reading with me, which you can do that for, the link is in my bio, so you can do that there. Now we're starting to round out the end of the month with something that is like a new beginning. There's some healing happening here. Now the Star card comes after the Tower in the deck, right? So it means that usually there is the dissolution of something, right? Something has to dissolve, something has to be moved out of the way. Obstacles have to be moved out of the way in order to make way for something new to come in. This is actually a chance for renewal and a chance for rebirth and something new to be able to come in, new energy to be able to come in. I'm going to say for the Aries out there, it seems like for some of you, whoever this message is for, like there's some decisions that you're trying to make. You're trying to weigh out these options. You're trying to weigh out what you're supposed to do, and you need to tap into your intuition. Make sure that you're being on point with your communication. You're not doing it in this way that's really cold. Also make sure that you are, you know, you're not trying to win at the cost of a connection or relationships with other people. Don't go burning your bridges, you know, like, you know, try not to do that. And if you're on the legal side, like I said, be wary, because this can actually indicate a loss. So be aware that you're dotting all of your I's, crossing all of your T's, doing that. And it seems like coming through this particular situation that you're on the precipice of like moving through, that by the end of September, it looks like there's this place of renewal and rebirth. Now, I will say this. People tend to see the Star card as like, oh, hope and like clean energy and renewal and rebirth. And it's like, yeah, because everything else was washed away. So it might get a little like there might be some friction and tension, and it might feel a little uncomfortable before you get to the point where you actually experience this clean slate is probably like what I'm actually going for, is clean slate. So that's what's in the cards for you. I do want to actually get a little bit, just like one card for some guidance for how you can actually move through this experience, just like some spiritual guidance. And I just saw a card pop out right there. That's a beautiful one for spiritual guidance. So we've got the Ace of Cups, right? Ace of Cups coming through, and I'm going to just say like Ace of Cups coming through on the tail end of having the Star card coming towards the end of the month. I think that what you're being told by the guides is, if this is a resonant message for you, Aries, then this is like basically saying, hey, you're going to come into something new. You're going to come into like a rebirth of some kind, or a clean slate, into clean energy and the opportunity for healing and hope and renewal. And this card also speaks to that. So just like keeping that in your consciousness and knowing that you're going to come through this experience on the other side with a clean slate, and also just know that there's going to be a feeling of like clean energy. Hope springs eternal is like what pops into my mind every time I see the Ace of Cups. It's this overflow of like really beautiful emotions that really comes through, right? So just something to really be aware of. That is what I've got for you. It, starts out a little bit kind of like a little sharp, a little angular, but really it looks like you're rounding out the month into some really beautiful places if you just allow that to flow through. And if you allow to like keep that in your consciousness, it's like, okay, I'm going through this really kind of contracted space, but I'm going to come out on the other side of this in this really beautiful space. So just knowing that you're not going to come out on the other side like, wishing you hadn't gone through it. It's gonna kind of even out, right? All right, Aries, that's what I have for you. So for anybody who is joining, I've seen people kind of coming in and out. So I just want to say, this is collective readings for all of the different zodiac signs for the month of September. So I'm doing these readings live here, and they will go up on YouTube. And I'm doing them in order of the zodiacs, which we just did Aries. So I'm doing them, this is so I don't forget. So I'll go in order. Otherwise, you can type in the chat whichever zodiac sign you want me to read next, and I'll put it on my list to like go in order of whoever throws out their next zodiac in the chat. So you can throw that out at any time. Otherwise, I'm just going to be going down my list and going through this. Note that these are collective readings for the sun, moon, or rising. So you can watch your sun sign, you can watch your moon sign, you can watch your rising sign, whichever resonates with you. So I usually say if the message resonates, great, it resonates. It's the message for you this month. If it doesn't, cool, maybe listen to one of the other two, like your moon or your rising. So, or like get a personal reading from me one-to-one, because that's actually the best way to get some really specific guidance. So that all said, I'm gonna take a sip here. I've got a new mug this month, so gotta keep me caffeinated today. So you can tell I've had a little bit of caffeine already. All right. So since I don't see a sign in the chat, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Taurus. So Taurus, let's get an overall like energy read for what's happening for you this month. Taurus, sun, moon, or rising. All right. I love it. This is such a beautiful, okay, you guys, this is a new deck. Let me fangirl for a second. I actually did a review. I'm about to post that up this week. I did a review for this deck, but I gotta say, this is one of my new most favorite decks. This is a really beautiful representation, I think, of the Hierophant. So the overall vibe for you, Taurus, this month this coming month, in the month of September, is the Hierophant. Now the Hierophant is kind of like this beautiful representation of the teacher, right? It's the teacher, it's the one who holds the knowledge for the collective. And so maybe some of you are actually in a space where you're looking to disseminate knowledge to the collective, and this is something that you're working with. Or for those of you who that is not the case, then you might be looking for some guidance, looking for you know, I really hesitate to use the word, because like don't go looking for your guru, right? I don't think many people are like really doing that in the same way anymore. But this is not about looking for the answers completely outside of yourself. This is about remembering that you have the ability to be your own spiritual guidance, and that you hold the wisdom and the power, and you have the access to the resources to be able to get the answers that you need for whatever you're working with in the month of September, right? So keep that in mind. And also, just there might be somebody sagacious that you can seek out that would be wise counsel for what you're going through, that has been through what you've been through before and come out on the other side. Somebody who has something to offer that's going to be really valuable for you. So I'm just going to say that this is something to really, and you guys let me know if for any reason you can't really see the cards very well, because I know there's a little bit of a glare. So this is something that is happening for you in the month of September, the overall feeling. Now let's take a look at like how the month progresses, and then we can get like some spiritual guidance. I may or may not work with the shadow cards this particular month. It just depends on, I might do it for some signs and not for others. All right, so, and remember, you guys can throw, it doesn't have to be your sun sign, moon sign, or rising sign. You can throw it in for somebody else. I know that people like to do cross watching, so there's that as well. So, all right. Seven of Stars. And by the way, in this particular deck, the stars are the earth symbol. They're the pentacles, or, you know, Ace of Cups. I love this. All right. I'm loving it, Taurus. You guys are going to love this reading so far. So curious to see how this is going to move forward. This looks good. Okay. All right, you guys. So Taurus, sun, moon, or rising. So we talked about the overall vibe for the entire month. And now what we have here is the Seven of Stars. Seven of Stars would be like, for those of you who are familiar with tarot, like the Seven of Pentacles, Seven of Coins, right? So Seven of Stars, this is patience. This is also, you've been like tilling the land. You've been working with something, like whatever you have been like really working with. This is actually something that's starting to come into fruition, and you're starting to see the beginnings of like the blossoming of what it is that you've been putting your time, energy, and attention into. So I get the feeling that for those of you who have been maybe paying attention to the astrology, maybe not, and you've been like working with really like planting and putting together this information, well, maybe for some of you this information, but putting together this energy and really like having it, like putting it into the pot and starting to see it coalesce, and now starting to see like it's starting to come to fruition, like little bits and pieces are going to start to come through. So have patience. Just know that your time, energy, and attention has been put in for a good reason. And, you know, kind of at the beginning of the month, you're going to kind of start to get hints of what that looks like and what that is. So as we progress through the month, we've got the Cups, we've got the Ace of Cups. And as I was just saying with the Aries, Ace of Cups is a really beautiful card. This is really just about like hope and optimism. This for some people can, you know, if you're watching this and what's most top of mind and top of heart for you, what's most important right now is around love and those types of romantic types of connections. This is really a beautiful card for that to come through. And so just know that that is a really possibility, is that you might be feeling that possibility with a particular person, or maybe somebody comes in that helps you remember what it feels like to be in that space of possibility. Not necessarily has to be the one, but sometimes we need those people to come into our lives to kind of remind us of like what it feels like to have that spark. You know what I'm saying? So that is what I'm loving this for my Taurus people, and I'm sure that just if you have very typical Taurian traits in your natal chart, then you're probably gonna really love this for this month. All right, you guys. Now we round out towards the end of the month with the King of Wands. So very beautiful, fiery. Like we start out with the Hierophant. We've got earth moving into water, moving into fire, seeing a lot of elements come together here and progressing into a place where it's like, I think that you're going to go into the month of October really with a sense of purpose and feeling a sense of confidence or courage, at least, about where you're moving into next. Now, again, however this applies, this could be for relationship, for career, for where maybe you're planning a move, whatever it is. Again, this is a collective reading. So if you want a one-to-one, you'll want to go ahead and book in my bio, right? But this is basically just saying, like, you're coming into this space where I am getting the sense that you're feeling into your intuition, you're allowing your intuition to be a part of what is guiding you forward. One of the interesting things that people tend to forget about the King of Wands is that in most of the traditional decks, you'll see he's kind of like the only king that's like on the edge of his seat, kind of like you guys always see me sitting here at the edge of my seat. So just like at the edge of his, he's ready to get up and go on the next adventure. He's ready to, like, you know, like, all right, I already built this kingdom, cool. Like, I want to go off and be on a mission. I want to go off and do this next passion project. I want to go build something else over here, right? So I feel like this is moving into a space of action. So you're, you know, like, you're starting to see things at the beginning of the month, once again, that are really kind of like the seeds that you have watered and cared for, and the things that you've tended to in your garden, the things that we're looking at earth, right? Manifesting your tangible things, right? Are starting to really come into, like, you're starting to see things really come forward. There's some hope that's really springing through here. And then we come into a place of, like, yeah, I'm ready to go and move into action. Things are moving forward, feeling that the spark of creativity and that fire, right? So now let's just get like one little bit of spiritual advice. Let's check that out. I'm feeling this card right here actually pretty strongly. Ooh, interesting. Oh, I love that. I love when I get cards like this in spiritual advice. So I really want to make sure that you guys can see this one. So this is how this particular artist chose to represent the Devil card. So I know that for some people, the Devil card might be hard to accept as being like a positive and a spiritual advice. So here's what I'm going to say. One of the things that I think can really come through in the advice of the Devil card being in this space is, you know, do not let yourself be tied to societal constructs that don't serve or fit what it is that you are building or what you feel inspired by. Right? Do not let society dictate to you, or the reasonable reasons that we tend to come up with that stop us from doing the things that we want to do or that we love to do. Do not let that become some kind of blockage for you moving into the spaces that you want to move into. You are not tied to people or situations or anything. And even if you are, let's say, a parent and you're responsible for, of course, another human being, that doesn't still mean that you can't find creative ways that are thinking outside of the box and not necessarily going according to what society dictates for you and how it needs to be. Also, another thing that, like, two other things that would be coming through as advice for you with the Devil card. Don't allow yourself to, like, fall into a place of vices. I know that getting, like, nice and comfy and the things that feel good can be really tempting, especially when we feel overwhelmed with life or projects or whatever it is. So you want to watch yourself not to become complacent and not to fall into that kind of space and not to fall into your vices, or to be so obsessed with this situation, whatever this is actually speaking to, that you lose sight of the things that are really beautiful and important to you in this world. So those are some things that I would say are cautionary and that are coming through as guidance, as spiritual guidance right here. So also, I find it really interesting that she chose to use a dragon on this particular card. The dragon is such a beautiful representation of, like, I know dragons can sometimes be demonized, but I think that dragons are these really beautiful, strong creatures that have such power and capability, right? And so we can really tap into that kind of energy. It's like you can have this all-encompassing energy without being sucked into the power dynamics, or being sucked into the way that you think about power and being absorbed by power and becoming egotistical about it as well. So just something else that I'm throwing out there with regard to that. So Taurus, that's what I've got for you this month. I'm kind of really loving this. This is an awesome, awesome reading. All right, so we've got Taurus and we've got Aries down. Hey, how's it going? So we are doing all of the zodiac signs for the month of September for your sun sign, your moon sign, or your rising sign. Some people do Venus, so feel free to watch for your Venus if you happen to know what constellation your Venus is in. So we've done Aries and Taurus. You guys are totally welcome to put in a sign, a constellation into the chat, and I will go in order of whichever ones are thrown into the chat. So it could be yours, it could be maybe some family member or a friend or a lover or whoever. If you want to throw in their sign, it's fine. I'll just read in order on my list, or I will read in order of what I see in the chat. So that said, I'm going to take a quick sip. I know there's a delay, so I'll just see if anyone wants to put anything in the chat. So cool. All right, so I'm going to move on to Gemini then. So, Gemini, that came through strongly. All right, Gemini, I guess we're just reading from I have all these decks around me, and I guess we're just reading from this deck. So, we've got the Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands for the overall feeling for the month of September, Gemini. So, you know, I just want to say, like, whatever it has taken for you to, like, whatever, just thinking about the cards that come before this, like, whatever victories you have had leading up to this, this is a time, this month of September is a time for you to, like, really hold your ground, like, hold the ground that you have acquired, that you have attained. So however you have come to be in the space that you are in at this point, like, whatever wins you've had, there's going to be a need to kind of, like, really hold things as established, making sure that they are secure, holding the line, right? So, and things might actually slow down a little bit as well. So you might feel like yourself kind of like fighting against the currents of energy, because you might feel like there is this, need to make things move forward, and they're not really moving forward in as quickly as you would like them to. So depending on what's going on in your natal chart, we don't know, right? But like, and also depending on what's happening with the transits currently, not every Mercury retrograde is like disaster and you're back up all your stuff. It's a good idea to do anyway, but like, it doesn't mean that communication will always be down. It doesn't mean that your technology is always going to screw up. It doesn't mean that some Mercury retrogrades are easier than others. You know, so just know that in September, we're coming into a Mercury retrograde. Generally, it lasts about 3 weeks. So you might have a little bit of slowdown, and that's okay. Like, this is a chance to, instead of seeing it as like an obstacle, just know that you might feel like you're spinning your wheels, or like it's taking a lot to really have steps moving forward, which has a lot to do with like where Mars is and what's happening with that as well, astrologically, you know, in the month of September, or it's already started really. So just looking at that and noticing that, sorry, I got distracted for a second. So just remembering that and knowing for yourself that you don't, it doesn't necessarily have to go that way. You can look at these slowdowns as these maybe blockages or these things that are kind of like having you have to hold the line as a temporary pause for you to be able to reflect on how this can be done better, to review what is in front of you, what you've already put into motion, and what you can do to actually improve it and make it better. All right, so that's what I've got for the overall for you, Gemini. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got going on. And I'm feeling this card strongly here. Ooh, which one of you Geminis is like dealing with some love? Some of you. All right, let's get a nice good shuffle in there. So we're gonna look at how this progresses through the month. For some of you Geminis though, this is really a beautiful kind of reading. If it has to do with love, this is a beautiful reading. Either way, it's a beautiful reading. I'm really digging the cards that are coming out so far for the signs. Yeah, really loving this. So we're starting out like the beginning of the month with a Two of Cups here. So we've got the Two of Cups. Now notice, like, one of the things that I really love about the Two of Cups is that it also contains the caduceus here. So I think for some of you, like, again, apply this as it applies to your life because this is a collective reading. So for those of you Geminis who are dealing with a love situation, this could be like a soul match, you know, like where it feels like there's some serious potential here, right? I don't know about you guys, but I'm not somebody who believes in like the one, like there's only one, right? I think that we can have these really deep soul connections that we maybe call soulmates, or some people call it twin flames or whatever, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's that, but just wanting to say, like, there's this very strong and beautiful connection that we see happening and occurring here in the space, right? I also see the potential for some serious healing. So what I'm getting actually on this side is like that there's at least one of you, but a couple of you out there who are going to end up watching this, who there's been some stuff in the relationship, like between you and this other person, that feels like a really deep soul connection. You know, this can also, it doesn't have to be lovers, this could be a really deep friendship, right? And so just like having this experience of having some healing happen between the two of you, and actually coming to a place of like remembering that deep connection and doing some healing with that. And for those of you who are really interacting with somebody new that you think that this could be a soul connection, this could be really healing for your heart to remember what it feels like to be in that space of love and beauty. And I think that this is awesome. So it's a really beautiful card. And the reason why I was saying that this is an amazing, amazing reading for those of you who are dealing with love is because, whoa, what do we have here? The 10 of Cups. Okay. This is like the what we want. This is what everybody wants, right? Like now, again, like when the original imagery, and she stays pretty true to the Rider-Waite kind of imagery, right, which goes very far back. And so at the time, what this looked like was, you know, the heteronormative kind of like man, wife, and kids, and a plot of land in their home, and there's a rainbow and beautiful weather, and they're all outside, right? Like that's the idea. But the feeling behind this particular card is about like whatever it is that you feel like your most fulfilling best life would be, right? Now, whether that's a partnership, or whether that is having to do with your purpose in your career path, or like your idea of what financial abundance would look and feel like if you were living that life. Like I know how it would look for me in a few different ways, you know. It wouldn't be this particular thing, but it would definitely feel like rainbows and beautiful feelings, right? And we are talking about feelings because we are talking about cups, right? So this is a really beautiful experience that you can actually have. Now, then we move in towards the end of the month. We start to round this out with doing the Page of Wands. Page of Wands is really this kind of like a spark of youthfulness, right? So you might be receiving like downloads, intuitive hits, epiphanies that feel inspiring and fire stoking and feel really beautiful, to kind of light up the imagination, to light up your creativity, and to also light up your thirst for adventure, experience, knowledge, like these kinds of experiences in life, right? So if this is really about a love connection, I would say that this is going to be an inspiring period, and probably going to affect, ripple into other areas of your life that are going to be inspiring for you, right? And also, if this has to do with business partnerships or whatever, this all looks really good. So I'm feeling like there is, you know, the only thing that I would say is you might feel like you're in a holding pattern for the month of September, right? And that's not necessarily surprising because of what we see coming up in the astrology for this particular month. So, which by the way, as we move forward over the next few months, and as you guys know, those of you who have been watching this for a little while, I am doing the readings this way, in this format, for the time being, while I'm in a very long course for astrology. So I'm studying astrology formally, and actually working deeply and deeply and deeply with like psychological astrology, which is really beautiful. So just know that I will start to, as I really feel more comfortable and feel like I'm at a certain point, start to really incorporate more information with the astrology and the cards. But for now, just wanted you to know that this is where it's at. All right, so let's get some spiritual advice. Just get a little bit more guidance, just something to cap it off for you, Geminis, and then we'll be moving on. So anybody who's in here, you're welcome to go ahead and throw a sign into the chat. Otherwise, I will just be going in order. So, all right. Lovely. So I'm actually seeing something really, like, this is what I'm really loving about the advice that we're getting for you. So we see the Three of Stars, right? And again, this is the Earth suit. So this would be in the regular deck. This would be like the Three of Pentacles, right? So Three of Stars, Three of Pentacles, what I'm seeing is like you're being advised to really look to community, or who you can collaborate with, who you can work together with, working together in conjunction with other people, working together as a team. You know, 2, 3 minds could be better than just your one if you're working with a project, if you're looking to move certain things forward in your life. So really looking to who's in your community, or looking to specific communities, but working together in conjunction with others is really what's going to like help you move through any of these places where you feel like there's a little bit of stuckness. All right, so Gemini, that's what I have for you. I'm actually feeling pretty warm, you guys. So like really quickly, I'm just gonna run and turn up my AC. It's a little bit warmer today, so I will be right back. Give me 1 second. Okay, all right. So we're gonna go and move on to Cancer. All right, Cancer. Let's feel into what we've got going on for my Cancers this month. So, Sun, Moon, or Rising, Cancer. Sun, Moon, or Rising. Getting a lot of 2 energy. Have you guys noticed that, for any of you who are like watching straight through? 2 of Wands, right? And we have had the 2 of Cups and the 2 of Swords. So a lot of 2 energy coming through. Doesn't necessarily mean couples, but it's just like these, I think a lot of us are weighing out different kind of options, weighing out like where we want to go with our hearts, right? With our emotions, with our like our lives, like what we're creating here with the 2 of Wands, or like what we're choosing between. That feels like a really cerebral space to be choosing between things, right? So just kind of checking that out. So what we have here, right, is the 2 of Wands. And this is really about the world is your oyster. You are able to like survey the landscape and really make some decisions about what you want to create, how you want to create it. The world is your oyster. The world is at your fingertips. Notice the world that is here in the card, like right there at the fingertips. There, yes, Lyra. She's so good. So notice that, right? So the whole vast landscape ahead of you, kind of like almost like the Fool card, right? When starting that journey, and you're able to like really decide which path you want to take, or to go off the beaten path, right? So it's really up to you how you want to do that. All right, so let's take a look at how the month actually progresses from here. So again, this is for Sun, Moon, or Rising Cancers. All right. My kitty Lyra is about to, I think, walk on through. Ace of Cups again. I'm loving how the Ace of Cups is coming through. I think there's like a lot of hope that's coming through for you guys so far. Popcorn with that one. All right. Okay. This is interesting. Let's take a look also. I'm going to go ahead and already pull for like the spiritual advice. Okay. Okay. Cool. So this is Lyra, you guys. This is Lyra. Hey, Steve. How's it going? Good to see you. So this is my kitty Lyra. All right, so we are currently on Cancer. So we were just talking about the world is available to you, right? The vast landscape and what you would like to create is right here and available for you. And what I have coming through at the beginning of the month of September for you, Cancer, is really having to do with that self-worth. Really knowing your value, holding your value, and being in a space of, what's up, Steve? Really being in a space of owning your power, owning your personal power. This is not about you caretaking and being in that space of nurturing for other people all of the time, even though for those of you who have really strong Cancerian flavors in your natal chart, and also depending on like where your moon is and all those things, right, this can really speak to some of you. So for those of you who are really identified with some of those Cancerian traits, you want to be aware of like really noticing at the beginning of the month of September, stepping into your personal power, stepping into holding your value, who you are, and standing in that space, knowing that you can do it on your own. You don't have to, you can be with community, but you need to be able to know for yourself that there's a situation that you're holding or that you're dealing with or that you're moving into, and that you have the ability to do that, to step into your personal power and to hold that for yourself. And there's something really beautiful about being in that experience for you. Not only that, and just like with that kind of watery water sign, we have you moving into like where we're coming into the middle of the month, this beautiful space of hope and beautiful space of optimism. The energy, the emotions that are coming forth are really optimistic and beautiful, and like there's a world full of possibility, very clean energy too. So I just feel like this is really clean and powerful type of situation. Whatever you're moving into, this could be a solo journey where you're really kind of reclaiming certain aspects of your emotional power to move through life, right? So whatever the situation is, again, this is a collective reading, so if you want something that's more personalized, you can just check the link in my bio. Now, that all said, I think this is preparing you for the end of the month. The end of the month, we're going to be moving into this space for you where there is something that you're needing to walk away from, moving to other shores, leaving behind maybe a certain way of life, or perhaps a person, perhaps a project, but traversing these emotional waters and being able to hold your logic, your rationale, holding your clarity of mind, and holding those two things together. One of the things with the Six of Swords is that we're traversing the waters and moving off onto like to a different land. For some of you, this could be physical, actual travel, but you're moving across these very emotional waters and being able to not allow the emotions or any kind of grief that is there about leaving behind what you're leaving behind, being able to hold that with your logic, being able to hold that with your sense of presence, and not allowing your mind or your emotions to really take over. So your emotions aren't running the show. You're able to move across with clarity, right? And with communication, I would say as well, because we're looking at crystals here. So that's what I would say for you. And then when we're looking at, like, I think it's really interesting. So it might feel a little bit hard at the end of the month, but I think that you're being prepared. Some of you, I think that I'm getting for a couple of you, this is like an ending of like a business partnership or relationship romantically, just because you're really stepping into you're being asked to step into your personal power. You're being asked to look at like there's all of this possibility before coming into the end of the month where you're really moving away from these things. And I think that you're being prepared, you're being kind of like groomed and sculpted to step into this power, to step into this energy, so that you can actually create this new world. You're going to like move away from whatever this was and move into this new world where you get to create for yourself how it is that you want it to be. Now, that being said, you're being urged to really move forward and to move forward quickly, right? This is very fast action, fast moving. Eight of Wands is like the green light to go. You're getting the green light to just push off and make your way through and to do it quickly. So I'm seeing that you're being very supported to step into your power, to step into possibility, to know that you're going to be moving away from something or someone in particular, whatever the situation may be, and being asked to do it quickly. You have the answers. You've already been shown what you're supposed to do. You already have that intuitive hit as that really very intuitive type of sign. So you already have all the answers that you need. Really, this is about you stepping into your worth, your power, and possibility, and knowing that you have a whole new world that you get to create however the fuck you want to create it, which is actually really beautiful, although it can sting a little bit sometimes depending on what it is that you're leaving behind. So you have a little bit of grief, that's okay, but you have a lot to look forward to. So that's what I've got for you, Cancer. So for any of you who want to read, have me read any of the other signs first before I keep going down the list, you're welcome to put that into the chat. Otherwise, what do I do with the deck? I put it off to the side. Otherwise, then I will just go in order. So I know that there's a slight delay. I'm gonna take a sip here. All right. So we're moving into Leo. All right, Leos. So, Leo. Wow, interesting. Okay. So let's take a look at how the month is going to progress. Okay. You guys might notice that I'm also doing a little bit of a different spread this particular month as well. And I'm feeling this one for the spiritual advice. Interesting. Not necessarily typical Leo kind of vibes. So for some of you Leos, whoever this is resonant with, for you Leo, sun, moon, or rising, this will be interesting. So, okay. All right, Leo. So we're starting the beginning of the month, or we're starting with the overall feeling for the month, what the overall energy for the month of September looks like and feels like for you. And what we have here is the 5 of Stars. So I don't know if you guys can really see that, so I want to like bring that a little bit closer so that you can see that. So again, the stars in this one is the pentacles, or the coins. Sorry. So pentacles or coins, and the 5 of Stars is really, I call it the crying over spilled milk card, right? It's just like, really being so focused on the loss, the grief, the regrets, the mistakes, for whatever it is that you're feeling, whether that's about a relationship or some kind of trip up that you had with a friendship or with a project or at work or in life. This could be really big life themes. I find that with the 5 of Stars, sometimes this can often be about like bigger themes in life where we feel like, oh God, like how did I not see this? How did I get here? How did I make these mistakes? And then being so focused on these mistakes that we've made that we neglect to really see that there's so much more available to us in life, right? There's just so much that we're not able to see when we're too focused on our mistakes that we've made that have gotten us to this place, So you're being asked at the beginning of the month of September, and again, this is for I'm just gonna take a look here. I want to make sure that yes, this is for our Leos. I thought we were, like, for a second, I was still kind of on a different sign. So this is for our Leos, right? So Leo, this is about you remembering your personal power, just like the sign before. This is the first card that's coming through and coming up, is at the beginning of the month, you're being asked to remember your personal power, remember your personal value, remember that you can actually do this. You can really, you can do this on your own. You can do life on your own. It doesn't mean that you don't need other people, that we don't need community, that we can't lean on others. But this is about remembering the power that you hold, the power that you wield, stepping into that with confidence and knowing that remembering all of the beautiful things that make you the Leo that you are. Remembering all of your beautiful and radiant traits, the things that have you emit that kind of Leo-ness that we all really love in the world, that radiance, that golden kind of feeling, right? So want to be really present to and remembering your personal power on that level is how we're coming into the beginning of the month. All right, Leo, as we're moving into the middle of the month, we're moving into the 6 of Stars, right? So we've got a lot of pentacles that are coming in for you. Scapes of Land. Can you do a reading for you? Yes, I can. So, Scapes of Land, this is I'm doing the collective readings for all of the different zodiac signs. So you can, and this is a collective reading, so you can throw in your zodiac sign for your sun, moon, or rising, and I'll read that one next. Right now, I'm currently doing Leo. So, so you can hang out for that. But I also said that for anyone who's hanging out on here, I might throw out like a couple cards or something like that on a personal level for anybody who's like just here and joining and hanging out with me, because I like when people hang out with me when I'm doing this. So feel free to type in, since you're the first person who asked about it, feel free to type in your question, and then as soon as I'm done with Leo, I'll throw out like a card or a couple cards for whatever you're asking about. All right, so Leo, sun, moon, or rising. We have, like, as you're coming into the middle of the month now, we have like a lot of earth energy that we're seeing coming through, especially through this middle lane right here, right? So it's this kind of central piece that we're feeling into. We had the overall feel for the month, and often I think that we start to get a sense of what the month is going to feel like, or what it's been feeling like when we get about to the midpoint, right? Those midpoints can really do it for us. So we've got the Six of Stars. Six of Stars is really about what is reciprocated in our experience. So if part of what has brought you into this particular place has to do with another person or with a company, for instance, or anything like that, really being in a space of understanding that there needs to be a reciprocated energy. Now, that can be that you're putting out this, like, your fire and your passion and your authenticity and your glow, and it's just getting like used up and eaten up, and there's nothing really coming back for you. That's one thing to be aware of. For some of you Leos out there, you might be on like the shadow end of this, right? The shadow end of this could be like you're just kind of like absorbing to feed your glow, because you're not sourcing your glow from your own personal power. So if you're not sourcing your glow from your own personal power and you're in a space of like taking, you might be experiencing this sense of kind of isolation, or being focused on like these kind of heavier emotions, or feeling like the world feels and looks this way because you're not sourcing your glow and your radiance and your happiness from your internal core, from your core self. Remember that the Leos are ruled by the sun, right? So you guys are this radiant beam of golden glowing light, right? Remember that about yourself. And so if you're on the receiving end of this, where like or not on the receiving end of things, where you're putting out your glow and you're not having that reciprocated, don't keep feeding your glow into like this kind of vapid space with a project or a company or people, right? And make sure that you're getting some kind of reciprocation. Like, you know, this is not a tit for tat kind of thing. This is not like keeping score, but just knowing that some energy is coming back your direction for everything that you put into this. And for those of you who are just kind of in this like black hole, kind of like shadowy sucking in to like get your glow from others, if you're starting to feel isolated or you're starting to feel like things are kind of dark, take a step back and see if you can tap into your personal power and understand that for yourself, right? So, oh, Escapes Plan, awesome. Yes, yeah, we can definitely do, I did Aries a little bit earlier, but we can do, I actually prefer doing one-to-one readings because we can get really, really specific, and I really love doing that. So, you know, I can DM you after this. You can also book in my link in my bio, but I can definitely message you after I'm done with this, and we can like set it up. So, and I do video like this, so we do it live, and it's recorded, so you can keep the recording and go back to kind of see how it unfolds and to go back to it time and again. So as we near the end of the month, we're coming into this energy of, yes, we'll definitely connect, I promise. So as we're coming to the end of this month, we're coming into the Nine of Wands, and I'm feeling like, Leo, like sometimes, you know, I'm the kind of person who, I'll admit, I can be really stubborn with life. Sometimes I kind of need the smackdown, or have needed. I'm doing my best to change it. I've been working on this for a few years, right? But you know, I tend to be like a little bit obtuse when the universe is trying to direct me with something, and I will beat my head against the wall until I realize that I need to do something different. So if this is you, pay attention. You don't want to stay in this space of the 5 of stars, right? You don't want to stay in this actual space. You really want to take in your, again, coming back to like, this is the message that you're getting at the beginning of this month, right? We're just like, what, a couple days away from the beginning of the month. Today's the 29th, right? So day after tomorrow. We just had the new moon. So we're moving into this new energy, and you have really this opportunity to build that momentum with this personal power of yours and stepping into your value. And also remembering, so there are 2 things with the 9 of Wands, right? 2 things that really come to mind strongly first. One is like this kind of wounded warrior, like you're tired, you've been through enough battles, like you've been doing this for a while, and it's like, I'm tired, I've done this enough, right? What comes after the 9 of Wands is the 10 of Wands is like, it's gotten too heavy now. So before you get to the point where you're burdened and it's too heavy for you to carry anymore, you're being asked to draw upon the wisdom that you've gained, glean the wisdom from all of the battles that you've been through, from all of, we could look at battles as like all of the experiences that have brought you to this point in your life, really glean the wisdom from those and apply that to this particular situation now. So if it's about relationships, draw on the lessons that you've learned in relationships from the past to really, so that you don't become the weary, wounded warrior in this situation, so that you're not weighed down by the heaviness that we're already seeing come through here, right? So really stepping into this space of wisdom and gleaning that from the past. So otherwise, it's going to feel like you're consistently just going like, okay, I guess I'm rearing up for another battle, right? It could feel that way. So we want to just kind of like shift perspective a little bit, right? Make sure that we shift that. And your spiritual advice that's coming through here is the Hermit. So, and I feel like this is totally aligned with everything. You know, it's really interesting to note, again, like this whole middle line that's been showing up here, like this median point is like, it's very, I think, very clear and very in alignment. But I want to point out that we have like the 5 of stars and the Hermit look very similar, right? There is this kind of alone aspect, this on my own aspect. And I'm not saying you have to do it on your own. But what I am saying is that there's a difference in the energy, right? One is like, oh my God, I'm alone, I'm a victim, I look at the mistakes I've made, beating yourself up for, you know, any kind of regrets or, you know, things that you have like haven't done exactly perfect or well or right. And then when we have the Hermit and we're looking at the wisdom of the Hermit goes within and asks the big picture questions. The Hermit takes time to get up to the mountaintop, where this is where the Hermit is, on the mountaintop, and having a vantage point and being able to look at the big picture and ask the big picture questions there in the vastness of the skies that are above at the top of this peak of this mountain, there on the mountain, being able to look down below, being again in this median point, right? Like the earth is down, like the earth down below, like the lower part of like the flat earth down here, being up on the mountain, and then there's the vast sky that's here, right? And so you're in this point where you can kind of see from both worlds where you fit into this, where you fit into your life and your vision for your life, how you can revision your life. And also like the big picture questions about like, what do you want? What will make you happy? What feels good to you? These seem like really simple questions, but they're very profound if we use them in earnest and we really allow those things to inform how we move forward. If every decision that you make, if every yes or no that you have to people or projects or things in life, experiences in life, are aligned with your big picture vision for what is going to feel the most vibrant, the most radiant, the most satisfying, the most amazing for you, what kind of life of purpose and what feels meaningful for you, then you're going to be guided. The guiding light that the Hermit has in front of him, right, is the guiding light that comes from the internal understanding and knowledge, right? So this is where we really want to come from. This is the kind of information we really want to be tapping into. So yeah, you can definitely, yes, you can share your sun, moon, and rising. I'm doing collective readings for all of the zodiac signs for sun, moon, or rising. So you can watch your sun, moon. This is actually being recorded here live, and then I'm going to save the video and it will be up on my YouTube this week sometime. So, so if you missed any of them, just know that you'll be able to go back and watch them as well. And you can also book a personal reading with me. You can DM me, or you can book it in my bio if you want a personal one-to-one reading as well. So that's what we have for Leo. And we've gone down the list, you guys. We've done Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and unless somebody wants to put in their sun, moon, or rising into the chat, I will go with Virgo next. So I'll give it a second because I know that there's a little bit of lag time on the chat. But yeah, you can put in your sun, moon, or rising. Aries, Cancer, Gemini, Steve, Virgo, Gemini, Gemini. Yes, Virgo. Yes, okay, cool. Yes, so Farm Meets Table, I have done Aries, Cancer, and Gemini. So just know, like I said, this will be, you can actually follow. If you go to the link in my bio, you'll see, it says like at the top, it says August tarot readings, like for the month of August. So if you click there, you'll be taken to my YouTube channel. And if you subscribe, you'll see like that it'll show up this week. This whole reading will show up for all of the signs this week there. So you can go back and watch like what is coming up for Aries, Cancer, and Gemini there. So by the way, Steve, I didn't know that you had so much Gemini going on. That's really cool. I'm a Gemini rising in both tropical. So it booted me off. I can't believe it booted me off. So here we go. So part 2. So we're getting into Virgo, and I don't know if Steve's gonna join back in. He might have seen that I got booted off, so I don't know if Steve's still here. So, but yes. Anyhow, what I was saying is that I'm also a Gemini in both the tropical and sidereal systems in astrology. So I have a lot of Gemini going on. So we are about to get into Virgo. You are Steve. Hey, what's up? Okay, cool. So I got booted off. So we're about to get into Virgo. So let's check it out. Let's get into Virgo without any more delays. We're gonna do Virgo. Let's get a sense of what the overall vibe for the month of September for my Virgos, sun, moon, or rising. Got the Queen of Cups. I'm really loving that, and I'm feeling this card coming out for the beginning of the month, the World card. This is interesting already. Let's see how the rest of the month progresses for my Virgos, sun, moon, or rising. Sun, moon, or rising. Okay. All right, this is interesting. And then let's also get some spiritual advice. So what do we have for spiritual advice from my Virgos, sun, moon, or rising? Here we go. Ooh, y'all are being called into some higher power work. You're getting the call. The question is, are you going to answer the call? And you're being told to answer the call and not stay in certain spaces. So if you've been actually being asked to, if you're being asked to up level in certain ways, answer. I would say take that. Hey, Kirsten, what's up, girl? So let me take a sip here, and then we're about to dive into Virgos, sun, moon, or rising. If you are here in the chat, you're welcome to put in any of the zodiac signs. I'm reading all signs collectively for the month of September. You can also book a one-to-one, DM me, or you can book it in my link in my bio. And if you've missed yours, just know that this is going to be recorded and it'll go up on my YouTube channel this week. So, hey, honey. All right, so Virgos, sun, moon, or rising. The vibe that we have overall is the Queen of Cups. Queen of Cups coming in now. For any of you who are dealing with a particular person, this could be somebody who is very nurturing, someone who feels like they're your muse, and they don't have to be a romantic person. This could be someone that you're admiring from afar, but for some reason they are somebody who is infusing your life with that kind of musy, nurturing, inspiring kind of energy, if this is a particular person, right? So this is really positive and beautiful. If this is a person that you're involved with on an intimate level, whether it's a friendship or relationship, this is someone who's really supportive coming in. Otherwise, we're talking about the overall energy for the month of September being about being in that space of nurturing and musiness with yourself, right? So make sure that you're putting self-care up at the top, but also that you're balancing your emotions. One of the things about the Queen of Cups is that she really holds all of the emotions, and she's able to not be overpowered by them. You think about where she is in the hierarchy, right? She's not a page. She's not a knight, she's a queen, right? So she's holding this space of like being able to allow it to flow through with that kind of more feminine energy. So, and just so that I'm not getting messages down in the comments when this goes up on YouTube, we are not talking about gender identity. We are talking about polarity of energy as masculine, feminine, yin, yang. So masculine, yang, feminine, yin, receptive and generative. If it helps to think about it in those terms, apply it as necessary, because I don't want to get a bunch of messages down below. So let's just be clear about that. This is about stepping into that really receptive place where you're able to feel and receive all of the energy and emotions and things that are there that stimulate all of the emotions and fullness that comes through, being able to really feel into that and hold it with this kind of regalness, right? It's not like you're not trying to control it, you're allowing it to flow through you. So this month of September is like, I feel like it's going to be bringing forth this kind of essence and asking you to step into this space and hold these emotions, and also to be able to not just hold the space of nurturing with yourself, but move into like how can you use this creatively? You know, when you think about water, it's also that flow. We often think about the fire suit as being the most like one that has the most relationship to creativity, but water is also very creative and has this kind of zen-like kind of quality to it. So I would say this is something that's really coming through. Hey Ashley girl, what's up? So you're welcome to throw your sign down in the chat and I can read that next so that you know. All right, cool. So that's what we've got for the overall feeling for you, Virgo, for the month of September. Now, what's really interesting and what I'm really kind of loving is that we're moving into the beginning of the month with the World card. And the World card is really basically suggesting that you've just come to the end of some particular cycle, right? Something has like really ended and you're moving into the beginning of this new cycle. Now, this could be a reinvention of yourself and or a beginning of going back to the beginning into a new journey. When we're looking at the major arcana, the World card is the end of the major arcana. So what happens is we've cycled through everything. We've learned all the lessons that there are to learn with a particular, maybe a person or with a project or with a certain iteration of our identity, right? We've moved through all of the lessons and really churned and like we've been kind of moved through the friction and the lessons and the heaviness and the disillusion of things and the growth and the hope and the possibility, and we've come out on the other side ready to start into this new space, right? We're looking at all of this starting energy, right? And that moves us right back to the beginning into the space of the Fool, right? The Fool at the beginning of the major arcana is ready to take that next adventure, is optimistic, is at the precipice of something really big, some new adventure that we don't know what all of the perils might be that we experience on that path, but we also all don't know all of the gifts and all of the ways that we're going to grow. So there's this great potential to move into a new space here. Hey Iva, girl, it's good to see you. So I'm running through all the zodiac signs for the month of September. You're welcome to throw yours in the chat if you would like to. So as we progress into the median point, right? So the median point of this month, and you're moving into a space of like having to make a decision. I feel this is very related to the World card, right? Moving into this new space, being able to start a new cycle over again. And what we're moving into is a space of like needing to make a decision between weighing out these different options. Now, this could be, again, this could be like people, this could be projects, this could be just your own personal path of purpose. Hey, your purpose path, right? So this could be whatever this is. Notice that I really love the arms being crossed against the chest here and being blindfolded. I feel like this very much moves into stepping into our intuitive sense, right? Like when you put a blindfold on, you're forced to really tune in to the world and to your surroundings, to make decisions, to be aware of what's happening here through your senses, your other senses, right? And so in similar way, like I feel like this is one of the most watery of the swords cards when we're looking at this, right? We can't get too locked into our cerebral way of problem solving or making decisions. There is this kind of integration with our intuitive sense and bringing those things together in this way, right? So this is like, I feel like you're coming into this new world, you're coming into this new space, and you might be trying to choose like, which path do I go down? Which project do I want to work on? Which person do I want to invest time and energy and space into, right? So that's what we've got moving through here. And let me just check the Sag Sun. Cool, we did Cancer. We haven't moved into Scorpio or Aquarius yet. So we're coming up on those, honey. Right now we're just doing but I will move into, because I'm not attached to going in order. So we'll move into Sag next, and then Scorpio, and then Aquarius, and then we'll move from there. So, yeah, so you guys are welcome to throw your signs in there, because I'm not necessarily going in order. I'm just going in order until I get a new sign. So, as we're rounding out the end of the month, so this is my Virgos, we're rounding out the end of the month, and we have the Page of Crystals. Now, in this particular deck, we've got the Page of Crystals is the Page of Swords, right? So I'm just seeing that there's like some research that's needing to be done, some investigation, some kind of like learning about this, like getting a different perspective, getting some kind of like vantage point, like getting into a space where you're like at a higher vantage point and you can kind of take a look and really examine how you want to move forward. Because I think that's part of this decision-making process, is like maybe you're realizing, especially, you know, again, Mercury retrograde gets a bad rap. We're going to have Mercury retrograde coming in pretty quickly at the beginning of the month of September. And so and it usually lasts 3-ish weeks, right? So through that process, this is the perfect time for you to actually be in the space of like holding your decisions and being able to do some research to get to a higher vantage point, to have some clarity and see where you're going to move next. So I'm just seeing like there's this new process. You're definitely going to have like, there's definitely the emotional aspect that's coming through, that's coloring the overall month, but you're starting this completely new world. The world is open to you. You have a completely like new slate and the ability to move into a completely new direction. So with the decision making and with the doing some research, I just see like this is the process that you're going through. And it feels really slowed down. Like I'm looking at this and I'm feeling into this, and it feels like this is going slower than I would like it to go, right? And that's kind of what happens sometimes in Mercury retrograde, especially depending on whatever's going on in your natal chart, of course, right? So, but because it's a collective reading, because we're talking about collectively, this is a time for revisiting, reviewing, revising, all the re's, right? And so now the spiritual advice that you're getting for the month of September as you're moving through these spaces is this, like I said, the Judgment, which is really about, you see the angel that's there with the trumpet that's calling them up, right? So it's like you can stay asleep in the coffins, you can stay in this world of not really being aware, or where you've been, which is like you've already been there, done that, or you can rise to the occasion. You can upgrade and up level and move into this higher frequency or this next level or this next chapter, but you're being called forward. Now, usually when we're being called forward in a way that is challenging for us, right? There are either doubts or questions, or seemingly there are a bunch of obstacles or things in front of us that make it feel like a little daunting sometimes. So with the call forward, sometimes it can be easy. I'm not saying it needs to be that way all the time. Sometimes it's like greased wheels, you can just flow forward, and it's really easy to make that yes. And sometimes it requires a little something extra from us, because if we're being called into this next level, into a higher level, we're being called in a way that maybe is different and new and requires us to do some research and to do some learning and to be humble about that process, right? We don't know everything, and where we were and what got us to that point, I think all of us have heard it enough at this point in our lives, right? Whatever got us to that point is what got us to that point, but to get to that next level, we might have to be in more of a studious space and more of like this kind of neophyte status with certain aspects of whatever we're doing, whatever we're moving into. But that doesn't mean you can't move forward and up level and upgrade to the next chapter, right? So that's what you're being called into, and you're being guided to say yes to it. So say yes. That's the message that's coming through from my Virgos. Remember also, Virgo is this people often, I think I posted this recently in one of my stories, like people often associate Virgos with this like A-type personality, like just kind of rigid, like very much about their lists and like kind of a stick in the mud sometimes. But that's not really all that there is to the Virgo. The Virgo is this really like the high priestess, is about healing, is about truth, is about this really clean state of being, clear and clean energy, right? And so this is a way for you to really just kind of think about that Virgoan energy and how you can tap into that as you're stepping into this new higher frequency, this new next chapter, and up leveling or upgrading in whatever ways you're being called to, and saying yes to that. So remember that you have this really beautiful power to do that. All right, Virgo, so that's what I've got for my Virgos, sun, moon, or rising. And also, I do say sometimes you can watch for your Venus as well, because I do think that matters as well. So, and I love that you said that, Iva, already. You were mentioning what yours is. All right, so we are moving into Sagittarius next. All right, Sagittarius, so you know I've got to bring out, we're going to do 2 decks for my Sagittarius vibe because, you know, I love the anime, and I got to bring that in for my Sages, so you know who y'all are out there. So, all right, let's get into the overall energy that we have going on for Sagittarius, sun, moon, rising, or Venus. And you guys, I'm loving this deck. I haven't even touched any of my other decks today. All right, so one more I'm feeling. So Sagittarius, sun, moon, or rising. Actually, I'm feeling this one here. Beautiful. All right, so we have the Empress coming through for my Sages, sun, moon, rising, or Venus, right? You're welcome, Steve. Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm happy that was like cool for you. Awesome. So we've got the Empress, and don't we just love the Empress for energy, for the overall feeling, the overall theme, the overarching theme that we're working with for the month of September is this really beautiful energy of the Empress. Yeah, Iva, exactly, right? We're talking about this like creativity. We're talking about not just creativity, creation itself. So what are you leaning into? What are you creating? And also in the world of the tangible, aesthetically, also with your senses, with all of your senses, like how does your world feel? Like what are you actually creating? What world are you creating? We create our worlds, we co-create, right? And this is such a powerful energy to step into. And I really love how pregnant with life the Empress is. So there's this really ripe, I would say, opportunity for what is occurring in this coming experience for the month of September, right? So lots of potential, I would say, is what I'm seeing there. So yeah, I love her too. Yeah, she's pretty epic. So, and also I think that you said, Iva, that was, Sag Sun. You know, I'm a Sag Sun in tropical astrology, so I feel you. All right, so let's take a look at what we have as the month progresses. And for those of you who have been with me before, I am doing a different kind of spread this time around. So we're just kind of looking at like how is the month actually progressing, and we're looking at spiritual advice. So like overall month progression and overall and spiritual advice. That is too many cards. We're not doing that many cards. No. That's what happens when I like lose attention for a moment. So let's, okay. So that I will allow. That one feels for sure. Now, how are we moving into the latter part of the month? So latter part of the month for my Sagittarius. I love it. Okay. And then I want to actually take a look at, because there's some really interesting deep realms that you're going into, Sagittarius. Really, really deep realms. A lot of it definitely emotional, some anxiety that I'm seeing in this experience, but also some like going into the depths, a lot of transformation energy that's like coming through here. So, oh, thank you, honey. Thank you for that. I really love seeing that. I appreciate that. Thank you. So let's take a look at the spiritual advice. I'm feeling also another card though. I'm feeling another card. So I'm called to like get into this particular deck, which is a little bit, I don't know if you guys have seen me shuffle this deck before, but it's super long. It's a little bit hard to shuffle, but I still love this deck. So, spiritual advice for my Sages. I'm feeling like a little bit more this one here. Okay, awesome. All right, Sag, we've got a lot going on. So, overall energy, remember that we're like looking at the Empress energy, right? So we have this great potential for this creation, not just the creative energy and this artistic kind of flow in the senses, but also what can be created, what can be born. And so sometimes the birth process can look a little intense, maybe a lot intense, really. It can look really destructive and really like an explosion of death before it looks like the birth actually comes forth and comes through. Now, I'm not a mother. I have not given birth and I don't plan to, but I have known enough about it to know that that's not going to be my experience, but I've seen video and it looks really fucking intense, and there's a lot of transformation that happens in the space. So I think that the overall energy of the Empress coming through is because of how the month is starting to line up. So let's start with actually how the month really starts off in the month of September. Now remember that we're already going through some intense transits coming into the month of September. We've already got planets going retrograde from now through about to the end of October. It's going to be a little bit intense is one word for it, but it's going to be maybe feeling like a pressurized experience for a lot of us. And we're starting out in the month with like some really deep transformative possibility, right? And that's why I say that I think it's connected to the Empress. Let me take a sip here. That's why I think that there's this potential for some really beautiful creativity, because when we go down into the depths of our emotional experience, into the shadows, this is like the moon, even though the moon is associated with the 4th house in astrology, I definitely feel like this is a very scorpionic card and very much reminds me of this 8th house, which is like death and transformation and like all of these really deep, like kind of underwater types of themes, the things that we're shining the light on the dark corners of our life, right? So, your mom. Oh, interesting. Girlfriend, you're doing an amazing job. I did not know that you had a child. You look like someone who's never had a child, just like with your physique and from seeing your Instagram. So good job, honey. Jesus Christ. Beautiful. You're an absolutely gorgeous, beautiful woman. So we're starting out with like having this like depth of emotion and really looking into our shadow pieces, really moving into those spaces, those deep waters, and transformation, right? Like coming out of those waters, bringing it up into the surface, up into the light. You know, we think of like this kind of full moon type of experience and like the shadows that it casts, but also the bright energy that's there and that's present. And it's also a really tender place. We don't tend to really want to go into these spaces and actually do that. So, and do that kind of work. So, you're welcome, honey. So this is how we're starting out the month. This real beautiful potential. Now, I say that knowing that it may not feel necessarily beautiful. I think it depends on perspective. You might feel the intensity of it and feel like reap the rewards and glean the wisdom on the other side of it and see how it was beautifully orchestrated on the other side, and that's where the creative and creation kind of energy really comes through. So as we're moving into the midpoint, the median point, and I think that this is going to be a point of tension inside of the month of September, there is this space of the 9 of crystals, right? And the crystals in this particular deck are actually the swords. So 9 of swords is just like getting too wrapped into the mental aspects, these mental energies where we feel the anxiety, right? Air can often have to do with like this nervous system being too agitated and there being too much, and feeling this anxiety and the kinds of energy and thoughts that will maybe keep us awake in the middle of the night. It's like you wake up and you just can't get back to sleep, having insomnia, like those kinds of energies, right? One of the things that I really love about this particular card as well is that, you know, you actually see her, looks like she's about to take that crystal. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me get that a little bit closer. Right? It looks like she's about to take that crystal and pierce herself with it. And I feel like that's just like so telling about some of the energy that really comes through with this particular card, is the way in which we kind of, like we can hurt ourselves, right? By getting stuck inside of our, this cerebral processing and these stories, right? It's like we're getting kicked off with this emotional kind of energy, right? This deep kind of tender spaces, the places in our experience that feel like we'd prefer to keep them protected and hidden, you know, and keep them safe, right? There's that feeling. And once they've been kind of exposed, it can feel really raw, and it can be this process where we have to move through beliefs and move through stories and move through our anxiety, right? So just not getting really caught up in that space where you're allowing the anxiety or the feelings to really like take over. And what I see is like there is this transformative process that we're coming through, right? That Empress energy I really feel is coming through because we're rounding out the end of September with the Queen of Cups, right? Now the Queen of Cups I was talking about a little bit earlier with the Virgos, because it came through with the Virgos, right? Like this Queen of Cups is like, she's able to, not only is she muse-like, but she is holding all of the different emotions, right? We're talking about, and again, I'm going to say this another time for anybody who wasn't on the previous, listening to the previous one, so I don't get it down in the comments. We are not talking about male and female in terms of identity. We're talking about the masculine and feminine energies of polarity. So if it helps to think about it in terms of yin and yang, in terms of like generative and receptive, apply it in those ways. So just to know, right? So we're talking about the Queen of Cups is like holding this space, this receptive space, and being able to hold all of the fullness of our emotions, right? Everything that was being pulled out from the shadows into the light, right? All of the things that we were like diving deep into and exploring, all these tender spaces, all of the feelings that get stimulated with the thoughts that can kind of like go out of control of our nervous system being on fire in these ways, right? And then moving into this space where we're able to hold it all, right? It expands our capacity to hold these really difficult spaces. And so we can come out on the other side of this. And not only can we hold these things, but we can step into a space where we are, by way of being this and holding this for ourselves, therefore be muse-like for others, or be nurturing and nourishing for others in this way, because we're able to hold that space for ourselves. And so being this kind of pillar or this example of that, not as the goal, but as your own personal process, and moving through these emotions, moving through these waters, moving through these kind of maybe personally confronting spaces, right? So, oh wow, yeah, these cards, girl, so just so you know, so that you guys know, also this week I'll be putting up, I did a review of this deck, so I'm putting that up on YouTube as well. So if you're not already following my YouTube channel, you can find the link in my bio. But yeah, you can go check it out later this week. It'll be up. This deck is incredible. It's super beautiful. So now let's move into like your spiritual advice, right? So we've got some spiritual advice coming through, and one of the things that's really interesting that came through is we have the Judgment card. Now this was actually in the same space, the same exact space for the Virgos as well. So just being called into this higher aspect, being called to be upgraded, to up level, to move into the next chapter, to move into that next level space. And I feel like this is very much in line with the Queen of Cups and with the Empress, right? Like think about this kind of energy, right? Like this is holding some serious really upgraded energy, to be able to hold the capacity to hold all of these things together, to hold them all, right? And so how that calls you into the next state of being, how that calls you into being in this Empress energy, regardless of like whatever, again, like however you identify, whatever your preference is, right? Like that fullness of the Empress energy, the archetype of that, like that energy is what we're being called into. And so I feel like there's a lot of message that's coming through here for just kind of directing you to just know, like, there is this transformative process that you're going through with these particular cards, like in the beginning and the middle point of the month. But I think as we're like about to come out of the whole Mercury retrograde and some of the intense energies that are coming through, there's like this transformative process, this kind of flow to it, because I feel like there's just this flow, water in this card, the Empress energy with that like receptive flowing kind of energy, even though it's an earth card, right? So, and then we have two other pieces of advice that are coming through with the spiritual advice. So we have the King of Wands and we have the Nine of Cups, right? So King of Wands and Nine of Cups. What's this? Yeah, you are that pillar. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super stoked that this is resonant. So, and then moving into like, so more of the spiritual advice and the guidance that's coming through is like the King of Wands is really about like the ability to step into this space of like the King of Wands is really guided by intuition and creativity, and so, and it's also this kind of like very fiery energy. Out of all of the kings in all of the deck, right, like all of the court cards, this particular king is the only one who's like on the edge of his seat and ready to kind of almost like leap up and go into the next adventure, right? So it's this kind of like energy of movement, of creation, of forward energy, and also and confidence, right? Like I think, and going through this process, I think that being churned and grinded in this way and then coming through to the other side, it does bring in this kind of a different kind of confidence is one word, but this kind of trust in ourselves, like this knowing of ourselves that allows us to feel like a sense of confidence, or to feel confidence, to be able to move forward in this more creative and fiery way, to be ready for the next adventure, to have the energy and for that next step, right? For that being called up in to this next step, right? So, but I also feel like what's really interesting is that it very much reminds me of this Empress kind of energy, right? Ready to create, ready to start on the next. And then we also have the Nine of Cups, right? And I think there's just something about remembering to, especially for any of you who are really resonant with the Sagittarius energy, right? If you're resonant with Sagittarius energy, if you have certain kinds of Jupiter placements that are, or ninth house placements in your natal chart that have you feel really resonant with this kind of energy, then the Nine of Cups is like, hey, remember fun? Remember like good drinks, good food, good company, just like enjoying, remember to enjoy life, remembering to, like, it's not just about like whatever accolades or whatever, that's not where the joy comes from. Like this feeling of accomplishment and whatever that we are like is so much what we focus on in our society. Not to say it's not important. Sometimes we can get so lost in like the work, not just like work that we do for money, but the work of like personal work and being grinded and moving through and moving to the next level. We forget to just like say fuck it and have a good time. So I just want to remind you, Sagittarius, Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus, like, let's just remember to step into play and to remember to feel good. Like pause during this month. You're going to have pauses anyways during the process. So pause. I think it will help with the Nine of Crystals, right? I think it will help with this moon energy that's coming through. I think it's going to help with that entire process, is if you can come back to what feels good. Especially like, this is another thing that I feel like is really in line with the Empress as well, right? The Empress is about those senses. It's all about our senses. And so if we can remember to just like pause and get into our senses, like what feels good physically, what feels good, you know, like what's visually appealing, what can we drink in with our eyes, what good food can we eat to taste, like what beautiful scents, like if maybe you're into essential oils or nature, whatever it is, like how can you stimulate your senses? Listen to beautiful music or listen to nature, I don't know, but like stimulating yourself in a beautiful way that feels that where you can actually remember fun and pleasure and like what feels good in life, right? So just that is really coming through in the need to remember that. So that's what I've got for you, Sagittarius. We've got Sagittarius done for the month of September. You know, it's like there's a little bit of grinding going on, but it's looking pretty good for coming out onto the other side with some really beautiful and full, ripe emotional landscape spaces to like move into and through and to be ready to step into that next space, right? Okay, so we are going to then what did we say we were moving into next was Scorpio and then Aquarius. Okay, so we've done Sag, so that I don't forget, we'll do Scorpio and then Aquarius. All right, so after Scorpio and Aquarius, we will have Libra, Capricorn, and Pisces. So if any of those are the ones that you're waiting on, remember to throw that down. And we're starting with the Scorpio, right? Yes, Scorpio. Okay, so we're starting with Scorpio, and then we're going into Aquarius. All right, Scorpio. Let's get into it. So Scorpio, what do we have overall for the month of September? Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus. So overall energy. How appropriate. You guys saw me shuffle. How appropriate, though, is we have the moon showing up for the overall vibe of Scorpio. Now, Scorpio, the depths and the water and the transformation, that's the shadowy underworld, the shadows, that's not so unknown to you. In fact, that's like your realm and your territory. So again, this is a collective reading for Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus. So if you are someone who really resonates with your scorpionic placements, wherever Pluto is in your chart, whatever's in your 8th house, and wherever your constellation of Scorpio is, whatever house it's in your chart. So just so you guys know, I will be bringing more astrology into these readings as we move forward. I'm in a course for psychological astrology, and it's amazing. It's insane. So we'll be getting into that. All right, Scorpios. So the overall vibe for the month, your territory, baby. You got it. Like, we're moving into some like depth. There are things and the feels and the creepy crawlers that are all under the carpet and in the corners and deep, deep, deep down into the waters. This is your time to be a mermaid or a merman. Get down into it and like really allow yourself to go through this experience of transformation, right? This is a transformative period, a transformative time for you to actually move through. So let's see how the month actually progresses for you. So for my Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus, got more water energy. Beautiful energy though, and I'm feeling this particular card pop up. I'm wondering which of you are dealing with possible relationship stuff. Okay. And then let's take a look at also some spiritual advice. Okay. So I'll allow it. The moment I saw that come through, I was like, yeah, we'll allow that. Okay. So let's start out with looking at what we've got going on for over the course of the month. So I'm just checking here for any other. Okay. So where we're starting out in the beginning of the month is we're looking at the King of Cups, right? So we've got the King of Cups King of Cups is able to, once again, very much like the Queen of Cups, but in a different way, able to hold all of the emotions and to be able to rule the kingdom, right? So being able to hold all of the transformative and deep spaces that you're going to be moving into and still actually not have it be disruptive to your life, which is not totally surprising since this is actually the realm that Scorpios really work with and move through. So it's more comfortable, even if it is uncomfortable. So it's not going to be disruptive to the other areas of your life. Really being able to just like hold that there are some deep spaces that you're moving into, and that you can still do work and projects and whatever else occupies your time in your life normally, without really too much disruption. And then we're moving to the midpoint of the month. In the midpoint of the month, we've got the Four of Wands. I feel like this is really beautiful for a few reasons. One is like, and this is what I think is often forgotten with the Four of Wands, we're looking at a rite of passage, right? So sometimes people see this as just like a celebration. Some people see this as like something that it can be about relationships. This can be a celebratory period of like coming together, taking that next step. So remember that rites of passage look a lot of different ways. That could go from dating someone to being in a committed, like exclusive relationship, or you've been in a committed exclusive relationship and then you're moving in together, or moving in together to moving into a more committed space, like something like marriage. Not that I'm saying that has to be the way that it looks for people, just as an example. A rite of passage could be moving from, you know, being a young woman that is pre-cycle into her first menstruation. It could be moving into motherhood. It could be a man moving into, like, from his young male self into puberty. It could be moving into his like first rite of passage physically, right? So like there are all of these different rites of passage that can happen. And so what I'm seeing in this middle space is moving into a rite of passage for you. So I'm really kind of like thinking that whatever spaces, I think I'm getting the sense that whatever you are actually having come up with the moon here, this is something that you're already familiar with. Not just because you're a Scorpio, but it's already something that you've probably been working with already, right? And so then from there, we're actually moving into the Page of Crystals, right? Which again, this is like the sword suit in this particular area. So moving into the Page of Crystals, I feel like there is like, okay, so you're holding the sense of all of these like emotions. You're holding all of the things that are coming up from the Moon card and from like the King of Cups. You're able to hold all this stuff. You're going through some kind of rite of passage. This can also be like if you're in a workspace. This could be like graduating into like like a promotion, right? Or this could be if you're an entrepreneur and work for yourself, moving from like maybe doing it as a side gig into a full-time gig. Either way, it's going to require that you move into a space of research, right? Doing your due diligence and actually looking into what it is that you need to look into that's going to be assisting you in this particular experience. This could be relationship oriented. This could be about a project. This could be about a job. This could be about your career path and your purpose. It could be a lot of different things. So this is really just about you tapping into and applying this to like however it applies for you. But I'm seeing like towards the end of the month, this is about you really like getting some information, maybe seeking out somebody who is like more experienced in these realms than you have, like they've come out on the other side or they've had similar experiences and they can really kind of add to and give you some information. So like really looking into what other information do you need to gather and bring in so that you are able to have the big picture, see the big picture, and have like this kind of vantage point where you can like see everything, all the chess pieces on the board, and really take a step back and see the whole picture, right? So we've got two cards that came out for your spiritual advice, right? And so what we have coming through is like some really fast energy and some really like intuitive energy. So, and I really love this because of the Moon card and like what we were already seeing, but we have the High Priestess and we have the Knight of Crystals. Right? So High Priestess energy, well, let's start with the Knight of Crystals. I'm going to say that the Knight of Crystals, like this energy is very fast moving. It's fast action. It's moving in quickly. Now, in a different position, I might be pointing out different things, but it's in a position of what you're being advised to do, which is being advised to move through this, to either process this quickly, to move through this quickly, like basically not to be rushed. I don't want to make it sound that way. This is not about being rushed. Like moving through something quickly doesn't equal rushing. Right? This is really just about understanding what it is that you're feeling and moving through this with without hesitation, without wallowing or spending too much time in something. Like there's processing and then there's just cycling in the same space, like whirlpooling. That's what I'll say. There's a difference between, you know, like whirlpooling or pausing, right, in a space and like processing. So you're trying not to whirlpool this. Like you don't want to be whirlpooling. You want to move through the energy. It's like, okay, I've got what I need to I've gotten what I need to get. I've got the information that I need to have. And now I'm going to move through and get to the next spot, right? Now also being guided by your intuition in this space. You know, if you have scorpionic placements, if you really resonate with the Scorpio, yes, Lyra. That's my kitty. If you really resonate with the scorpionic energy, then this is no stranger to you. But the High Priestess holds all energy at once, right? She holds the youthful energy, the more mature energy, and the wisdom of the elders. She holds all things in balance. She holds all polarities, right? So we could say the masculine and the feminine. We could say the generative and the receptive. We could say the yang and the yin. Reverse those for the hands that I'm using, but we could say those are the polarities, and she holds all of these things in place, and she holds all of these energies together. So she's able to really hold the space, and one of the strengths that comes with that, and you might say, well, how the fuck does that apply to my life, is if you're able to be in action and be able to pause and be in flow, if you're allowing yourself to respond to how life shows up, and you're able to be in action and know how to move things forward and not force things. There is this kind of like ebb and flow with this. If you're able to listen to your intuition and you're able to tune into the elements. The High Priestess also, very similar to the Magician, I feel, really holds all of these energies together, and she has this really like beautiful way of combining them, right? Not looking at her shadow aspects, because this is like what we're holding with the High Priestess in a positive position, right? So that's what I'm seeing coming through here, is like really utilizing those gifts, those strengths, and your scorpionic gifts to be able to move through this in a way that is not rushing, but moving through it, not holding on to it, not staying stagnant in it, not staying too long in the process as you're moving through what you're moving through in the month of September. So I hope that makes sense. That's what I've got for you, Scorpio. All right, Scorpio. So keep looking over here thinking I put my deck over here. So Scorpio, that's what we've got for you. All right, so we are done with Scorpio. We're moving on to Aquarius, and then we have Libra and Pisces. So if you're in here, you're welcome to let me know if you want Libra or Pisces next. All right, I'm gonna take one more sip. I've been doing a lot of talking, you guys. So let's see. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of talking. It's for like 2 hours. It usually takes me about like 2.5 hours, I think, on average to do this. So I wasn't even sure that I was going to get through all of them today. Honestly, I wasn't really sure. So, all right, Aquarius, you Aquarians out there, you airy, interesting, innovative people, unique innovators of the world. All right, let's get into it. All right, Aquarius, what do we have overall for the month of September? We have the King of Cups. So, and then let's take a look at how the month progresses for my Aquarians, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And I'm feeling this card here. And then here, and here. Okay. Okay, and then let's take a look at our spiritual advice as well. I'd like to take a look at that with this. With this specifically. What kind of advice do the guides have? I'm feeling like this card right here. Haha. That's interesting. All right. So, all right, Aquarius. Oh, wow. The sun's going down much more quickly. That's right. The time is changing. So hopefully we have enough light. I hope so. Oh my gosh. All right. So I hope we have enough light. Okay, sorry, Aquarius, as we're moving into the beginning of the month of September for you, we've got the Page of Stars, right? So the Page of Stars is actually, again, the stars would be the earth suit, they would be the pentacles or the coins. So the Page of Stars is like studious, right? The Page of Stars is like not just someone who is like I think you're going to be receiving messages that are going to help you in like what you're looking to create in this experience in the month of September. Like there's some guidance that maybe you've been looking for. There's maybe something that you've been hoping to have like projects to be able to take seed and to move forward. And so this is like you're going to be getting some information that's going to be really helpful in this process, in the pursuit of this, right? Almost like the solutions are like at your fingertips and they're like being given to you in this way. As we're moving into the midpoint of the month, we're moving into the Four of Crystals, which again, that's like the swords. The Four of Crystals is like, it's interesting. It's like you're getting solutions, right? You're getting messages. You're going to be given messages at the beginning of the month, but it's almost like you're not listening to the messages or the guidance that's being given to you, like not like almost like a rejection of it, kind of like you're feeling complacent or bored with life or the options that are on the table, or like it doesn't look and feel the way that you want it to look and feel. And so that's kind of one of the big things with the Four of Stars, the Four of Pentacles is like, oh wait, this is the Four of Stars. No, the Four of Crystals. I'm sorry, you guys. I totally went in a different direction. Sorry. Let me take that back. So we're actually moving into the midpoint of the month with, I was thinking Four of Cups for a second. So we're doing Four of Swords, basically. So Four of Swords is taking time to rest. So I take that back. So at the beginning of the month, you're getting like these messages, right? These like solutions that are actually coming through. And this actually, I really like this message a lot better than what I was starting to lay out. So we've got the Four of Crystals, which is really about taking the time to rest, very much in line with a retrograde that we're coming into, this retrograde energy, right? Because retrogrades, like I was saying, they get a bad rap, but they're about revising, revisioning, reviewing. So taking time to like be with what has already been in motion and like reviewing it and seeing like, so whatever solutions, whatever options, whatever things the universe or your guides or whatever you believe in is bringing you so that you can actually create the things that you're wanting to create. You're being given the opportunity to take that and you're being advised to take that and like rest. Things are not going to be moving as quickly as you want them to be moving through this month. So you're really needing to take some time and pause and really examine, like which of these options feel good to you? What are you creating? Is it really what you want to be creating? And also just resting. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you're in a space of rest, you actually get more epiphanies, more insight, than you would have had if you would have just like kept going. Sometimes it's in those quiet spaces, in those spaces that we take the breaks, that we actually receive a lot of beautiful insight, right, into our experiences. So this is a chance for you to like pause and to let yourself rejuvenate, let yourself be in the space of review, let yourself just kind of relax so that you can have this information really come through, so that you can have the new epiphanies, the new insights, and you'll start to probably, I think, see how this can really start to come together for you, okay? So I'm starting to lose light, you guys. I'm a little bit nervous. I need to get through the next couple really quickly. So we're rounding out the end of the month with the Devil card, right? Now, a few things. This can be a few things that I want to point out. If this is relationship oriented, versus if this is like some other like path, like general path orientation, I want to say a couple of different things. So if we're looking at the Page of Stars, the Four of Crystals, and the Devil card in terms of like your purpose path, your career path, or something that you're up to that isn't romantic necessarily, I'm going to say you want to be careful of being like overly identified or overly obsessed with whatever is happening and overworking yourself, or allowing yourself to fall into a space of overly identifying in an egotistical way with what society thinks is appropriate, or what they think you should or shouldn't do with regard to like your career or your projects, or even a relationship. It could be a relationship, or your friendships, or like where you move, or how you choose to live, or how you set up your lifestyle, right? So all of these different things can be like feeling chained to, feeling obligated to do things the way that we think society like dictates for us to do them, right? So this is something you really want to be aware of and not fall prey to. So really watch out for that. Also, for any of you who are dealing with like addictions of any kind, like if you tend to escape into vices because you feel like really overwhelmed by everything that's like come forward, and maybe that's why you actually need the rest, then like so that you don't feel overwhelmed and run straight into vices. So you really want to watch this at the end of the month. Now, for those of you who are dealing with relationships, this could be actually moving out of like recognizing that there's a connection that is toxic, that is obsessive, that is not serving you, right? Now, that said, we can have obligations of love and obligations to not just career and to friendships, but also in relationships. So you really want to watch this at the end of the month here, Aquarius. Like, I just feel for some of you, there are options that are being presented to you, like options that you're really wanting, right? And hey, honey, it's been a while since I've seen you. It's good to see you. Let's catch up soon. So there could be options that are really coming forward for you, and like really like solutions and things that are like at your fingertips, and then needing to really sit with and be with these spaces, like really needing to like rejuvenate and review and revise and like be in the space so that you can like have the time to evaluate what it is that you really want, so that you're not stepping into or continuing with patterns that are toxic, or feeding into certain kinds of vices that are like where you're escaping too much because of the overwhelm, or overworking yourself and becoming overly obsessed with things looking or being a certain way. The kind of advice that you're getting is actually about up-leveling and moving into a different kind of frequency. Now, we've seen this actually pop up with a couple of other signs, this particular readings, like set of readings that we've had going on today, right? So you want to really be paying attention to like, how are you being asked to step into the next version of yourself? How are you being asked to move into the next level? And are you actually blocking yourself from doing these things because you're holding to an idea of what you think you're supposed to do, or because you feel obligated to a person or to people or to your family's perspectives or to society's perspectives or whatever it is, or to a job, right? And so making sure that you don't allow that to block you from actually moving into this next step that you can be moving into. You're getting the call to move forward, but you're being asked to pause with the solutions that are being presented to you. So you're being given options, but you need to pause, feel into them, and not allow yourself to be like, to block yourself from actually stepping into this next space. All right, so that's what we've got going on for you, Aquarius. All right, so that's Aquarius done, and we've got 2 more signs to go. Oh no, I'm sorry, 3 more. So we've got Libra, Capricorn, and Pisces. So let's see, Libra, Capricorn, or Pisces. So I'm actually gonna go in order if I don't see it pop into the chat. So you can type into the chat which one you want me to read first, or I can just go with them in order. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing anything pop up into the chat, so I don't think that there's a preference. So we're gonna roll with Libra. All right, Libra. I'm curious about this. So my dad's a Libra. In tropical astrology. Actually, in tropical and sidereal, he's a Libra. So he's a through and through Libra. All right. Libra, sun, moon, or rising. All right, you guys. Oh my God. So what I love about this deck is it has two cards that are totally not typical of any tarot deck. And what I really love about this Flower of Life card is this is about connectivity. The ways in which everything is interwoven and interconnected, kind of like a web. Like you might look at this like this network, like a neural network, like an interconnected web, right? How we're all connected, how the actions or inactions that we take or don't take affect the rest of the collective. They affect the people around us, who then affect the people around them, right? There's this ripple effect. And so remembering like how this really comes into play. So Libras, sun, moon, rising, or Venus, this is a really important time in the month of September to remember this particular frame of mind to hold, right? So let's take a look at how the month progresses for my Libras. Feeling this card here, Page of Cups. Gotten some pages today, huh? And I'm feeling this here for mid-month. I think this is the third time the King of Wands has actually shown up today. Okay. And the spiritual advice, so like whatever guides have to come forward with this, and I like this a lot. Okay, so Libras, I'm liking this, Libra. So what we've got is starting out with the beginning, like the energy at the beginning of the month, we've got our Page of Cups, right? So Page of Cups energy is really this youthful and creative energy, like full of imagination, like this kind of fanciful, youthful, like imaginative type of energy, right? So I feel like there is a bit of a reminder to step into this refresh, to allow yourself to dream, to fantasize, to imagine what direction you're moving in and what possibilities there are that exist and what could be, right? Like there is this opening for you to step into, and I think that this is a really beautiful time for you to allow yourself to do the dreaming, to be creative, to be in this space. This is a very creative kind of energy. I do know that, like, you know, if you really have those Libra placements, if depending on where your Venus is, depending on how your fifth house looks in your natal chart, you could really relate to this, right? So this is like very much that creative, aesthetic kind of energy, like how you move through that, how you channel your energy into like this creative force or this imaginative, dreamy kind of fantasizing type of energy. And that can be a really beautiful thing, right? When it's not in its shadow aspect, it can be a really beautiful thing. And so then we move through the midpoint of the month into the midpoint, and we have the King of Wands, right? So King of Wands, when we're looking at the King of Wands, I feel like this is a stepping into a certain kind of empowered space. Like we're thinking about the energy of the wands is creative and fiery and has like courage and action and force, not like forcing, but I mean like the force, the motivation, the energy is like moving forward, it's churning, and there's fire and there's spark, right? And I was saying earlier with one of the other signs that the King of Wands is definitely one of the kings that is like ready to leap up from his throne, and he's like, I've created this kingdom, I've already been running it, I'm ready for the next adventure, I'm ready for the next, to conquer the next thing, to create the next kingdom, to do the next thing, right? And so I feel like this beginning of the month is like you really taking the time to be in the space of like imagining, of allowing yourself to daydream, to create the possibilities, to imagine them up, and then to move into the space of like, okay, let's like be in that creation space. Allow your intuition to really guide you. The King of Wands is really guided by, he trusts his intuition. He knows, he moves with his intuition. So being really aligned with that. And then we move into the end of the month, right? So as we're moving into the end of the month for Libras, yes, for Libras. As we're moving to the end of the month for Libras, we're moving into the World card, right? So this is the end of like some particular cycle and the beginning of a new cycle. So you're moving into this like new cycle. And I really feel that, right? Because like this energy with the Page of Cups is this dreaming up of the direction to go in. We have the King of Wands that's coming in with this energy of like, let's get there, let's go, let's create this, let's make the kingdom, let's go onto the, like, you know, this energy of like movement and forward and action and energy. And then we come into like the beginning of this new cycle. You know, whatever you were working on, whatever's been created previously, that's been done. You're already moving into this next and new cycle. And this is what's really, really beautiful. So after that, I want to look at our, this is the spiritual advice that we have coming through for you. And it's the 9 of stars, which would be the 9 of pentacles or the 9 of coins, right? So nine of stars is really about you owning your personal power, owning your personal value, right? Like knowing your value, yourself, knowing that you can do this, you can create, you can manifest, you've got your shit together on a personal level, but you also know the power that you hold and that you wield, right? Recognizing your personal value, really valuing yourself. And this isn't to say that you can't work with others. This isn't to say that you shouldn't work in community. This is about you really valuing yourself and knowing the kind of value that you bring to projects, to relationships, in all situations, and really embracing that, really owning it, integrating it in yourself, like really holding that energy in the world as you move through the world in September. This is the energy that's really coming through. All right, Libra, that's what I've got for you for Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Really love that we got a new card that came through. This deck is awesome. This is the first time I've used it on any of my like live stuff, so I'm pretty stoked about that. All right, so that is our Libras. We are down to our last 2 signs, you guys. We've got Capricorn and Pisces. So, all right, I don't see a request for either to go first, so we're going to move into Capricorn and then we're moving to Pisces. And that is the last of my caffeine. I shouldn't be drinking caffeine this late, I know. But today, it felt like a necessary thing. All right, I'm going with it. I feel it. So, the overall energy that we have for my Capricorns in the month of September, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, you can also do this for Venus, is the 7 of Cups. So hold that, 7 of Cups. Let's take a look at what we've got showing up for the rest of the month. All right, so what do we have coming up for the rest of the month for my Capricorns? I'm feeling this card right here. That's beautiful. Capricorns, about mastery. Interesting. All right, Capricorns, Sun, Moon, or Rising. And spiritual advice. Feeling this card here. Okay. Well, I think you're going to like the spiritual advice, Capricorn. So let's start with taking a look at the, oh no, my brand new deck, and it's already bent a little. My decks get worn so quickly. I haven't even had this that long. All right, so Capricorns, the overall vibe for the month of September that we have for you is the 7 of Cups. So I'll bring that a little bit closer so that you guys can actually take a look at that. I love the little skull here. I think it's adorable. You know, these all have meaning, but we're not going to go into that because, like, we're not teaching tarot. At least not yet. I might be doing that sometime soon, maybe next year. So what we have with the 7 of Cups, we're looking at, there are all of these options, right? There's all of these possibilities, all of these dreams, all of these kinds of things that we can imagine and like pull from, and we don't know like which one we're actually going to pick. So in this space of like indecisiveness, you know, not knowing like which of these cups, which of these things feel the best to me, right? Because we're looking at cups, we're looking at emotion, right? So we're looking at like which one of these kinds of options, which one of these dreams, right? Water. Which one of these dreams feel like what I want to experience, feel like the path that I actually want to take, right? And so that's what we have showing up for the month of September. Now, at the beginning of the month, we're starting out with Capricorns being in the space of the Hierophant, right? Now, the Hierophant is the one that is like a teacher, a disseminator of knowledge, right? I really love the representation and feel so much more aligned with this like more updated version of the Hierophant than in the traditional Rider-Waite deck. So this one feels so much more aligned, and it's easier for me to see this. So like this can be about like belief structures, about the beliefs that we hold that create our society as a whole. Oh, she's getting away with cutting the carpet up with her nails because I'm live with you guys. Did you guys see that? Oh. All right, so this is the beginning of the month, right? Like stepping into not just like the teacher space or like what, like looking at the beliefs. I'm feeling like the looking at the beliefs that you hold, looking at the beliefs that we hold for like as a society, and you being in the space of being able to be either the teacher, the disseminator, or like the receiver of like this wisdom. So being in that kind of space, right? And I don't know which one you are, which space you're in, but given that like what we're looking at next, I think it's going to become a little bit more clear for you. Also remember, this is a collective reading, right? So if you want to do like a one-to-one more specific reading with me, you can DM me, but you can also go to the link in my bio, or if you're watching this on YouTube, the link is down below. So as we move into the midpoint of the month, it looks like there's something that is, I think, probably related to the beliefs and like what you're actually dealing with that feels challenging and disappointing. Like there's something that you're experiencing like a disappointment with. Sorry, you guys. I've been talking for over 2 hours. Okay. Better. So there's some kind of disappointment, there's some kind of letting go, or like a grieving of something that it feels like a pain point, right? That is coming up in the middle of the month for you. So hey there, thanks for joining. So that's what we have actually showing up right now. A lot of people are scared of the Three of Swords, and I know that it's not a great feeling, but the Three of Swords doesn't always mean heartbreak, like you're going to break up with your person or the relationship's going to end. It can indicate that there is, you know, trouble in relationship land if this is actually a reading that you're like resonating with for a relationship. And you've been kind of already coming to this point, it can actually speak to that. But this is really just about understanding that, you know, there are disappointments in life. There are things that don't pan out the way that we had hoped or that we had wanted them to pan out. And there is a grieving of what we imagined could be, or there's a grieving of what was to move into something new. You know, this doesn't necessarily always mean like people look at this sometimes like this is a breakup card. It's not necessarily a breakup card. This could also mean like if this is about relationship for you, this could mean that the relationship as it was previously was no longer working. That path, that trajectory, that place that you guys were moving towards, that no longer exists anymore, and it's going to need to transform and move into a different space. All right, sorry. So coming back to this, sorry, Capricorn. So then we move towards the end of the month, and what we're moving into is the Three of Stars, right? So this is the Three of Stars is really moving into working with others, right? Being in collaboration, being in co-creation, being in community, working together to come to a solution, to come to a place of resolution. So whatever this was, whatever space you're in. I'm going to read this a couple of different ways. For those of you who are dealing with relationship, I'm going to say that for those of you, some of you may be in a very serious relationship, in a marriage-like relationship, in something where you feel there's a very strong belief in the experience, like the way that the relationship is actually set up, and coming into a space where like very disappointed by like things not actually panning out the way that you want it to. This could actually have to do with some heartache. And then there's this co-creation. There's either coming into community with friends and other people and your communities to help you move through this, or there is the co-creation with your partner. And if you're someone who works in open relationships or multiple relationships, this could be coming together with the, like, if there's a triad, then the three of you actually discussing and communicating and working together to create something with more foundation, right? If you're working with projects, I'm going to say that this is like projects or purpose path or finances or any of this. It's like, again, you know, this is really about coming into like really looking at your belief structures, really looking at what have you learned, what are you learning, what are you teaching, what is the information that you might be putting out into the world if you're someone who's like an entrepreneur, but if you're not somebody who's an entrepreneur, like how is this information relevant to your career, right, around beliefs and structure and like teaching and learning. And then also just like recognizing that maybe the projects that you're working on or where you've been putting your energy and attention is not really panning out the way that you had hoped and the way that you wanted to, and needing to come into a space of collaboration with others so that you can actually work together to create something that is more than what you had intended or what you had envisioned before. Remember, we started off with the energy for the overall energy for the month of September being about like what you, like this is something about that has to do with what you envision, what feels good, what dreams, what possibilities are you going to choose, which ones feel the best, you know? And sometimes you might kind of pick one and go, nah, that doesn't resonate with me, it doesn't feel good, it's not working out, and you move to a different one. So I think you're going to be examining different possibilities, different kinds of dreams, different kinds of different possibilities, different paths and what feels good for the month of September. Now, the advice that you're being given, and I think that this is why I was like, I think Capricorns are really going to like the advice that's being given, because Capricorns are all about mastery. So again, depending on where your Saturn is placed in your natal chart, depending on what's happening in your 10th house in your natal chart, depending on where Capricorn, the constellation, is in your natal chart, you know, so this can all be really resonant with you if you are a super like resonant person with the energy of Capricorn, right? And again, this is a collective reading, right? So, but there is this energy of working towards mastery, right? The 8 of stars, which would be the 8 of pentacles, is really about honing your craft. It's about continuing to work with your craft. Now, if this is about relationship, this is about continuing to hone your skills in relationship, right? Really being able to like move into mastery with that, to work towards mastery with that, right? But this is about doing the personal work, or this is about doing the growth work with your particular field, with your purpose, with your path, continuing to, if you're in an apprenticeship, you could think about it like that. Like you're an apprentice, you're working, you're studying, you're growing, you're integrating. That's the kind of energy, the craftsmanship, right? This is a craftsmanship type of card. This is what we're looking at here for you. This is the advice that you're getting for how you move through these challenging experiences, how you choose which of these dreams you're going to invest your emotions and your time and energy and attention into, right? So that's what I have for you, Capricorn, for the month of September. And we're on to our last sign, you guys. That's my kitty. She's basically letting me know that she's hungry. So we're moving into Pisces. All right, Pisces, you know, it's so funny. I think I'm going to go in the reverse next month. I'm going to start with Pisces and then move my way up, because Pisces, you guys always seem to just kind of like come through at the end. It's kind of like when you're in school and they're always calling people by the last name, and if you're like towards the end of the alphabet, you're always waiting forever, right? So unless they decide to move from the bottom up. So anyhow, Pisces, what do we have for you? Actually, I was feeling that card right there. Interesting for Pisces especially. And then what does the month look like for my Pisces? Cool. And we're definitely going to want some spiritual advice for my Piscean peeps. All right, Pisces. What kind of spiritual guidance is coming through for you in the month of September? I'm feeling this card here, but I'm feeling another one as well. Cool. All right, Pisces. Let's take a look here. So we're starting out with the overall feeling for the month of September. For my Piscean people, we've got the King of Crystals, which is the King of Swords, right? This is more of a cerebral place, right? This is you being able to be philosophical about your approach in life. This is about you being able to be in a space that is using more of your reason and your logic versus just the emotion. This is actually being in a more linear space than you might be accustomed to. Now, this is for Sun, Moon, Rising, or Venus for my Piscean people. Now, Pisces, 12th house, right, or Neptune, wherever that's placed in your natal chart, can really have a lot to say about whether you feel super resonant with the energy of Pisces. But if you do feel really resonant with the energy of Pisces, this could be a little bit difficult, right? Because the tendency with the Piscean energy, a true Piscean energy, is like, the world is too much. I need to escape from reality. And it's actually totally good and fine and okay. Like, you as a sign actually need to do that. You guys need a break because of the level of sensitivity that you hold, and because of how much you're always feeling it can, and how much you like desire to be in that space of like really connection and oneness and merging with like the world and nature and, you know, divinity, right? And so however you define that. And so this is like really probably an uncomfortable space to be in for the month of September, is like being in more of this kind of cerebral space, this more linear space. But the king energy in this space is like very much sharp-minded, very, not sharp person, but sharp-minded, very focused, very clear, very able to take the emotions and filter them through a certain kind of rationale to be very like kind of grounded in a way, almost earth-like, when you bring the two together, right? So just keeping that in mind, let's start to take a look at how the month is progressing. So at the beginning of the month, we have the Six of Cups. So we're looking at the Six of Cups. Six of Cups is definitely like this kind of very youthful, very nostalgic energy. For those of you who are dealing with relationship, this could have to do with somebody coming in from your past, somebody coming through that has been before. It could be an ex, could be somebody that you've known from your past that like ends up being kind of a romantic interest if you're looking at relationship for this. If not, this is just something that we're looking at with regard to nostalgia. If you're looking at your purpose and your path and like your career, this could be about reminding you of like what it is that felt really nourishing and that made you feel excited and kid-like about your life when you were younger, right? So really paying attention to how this shows up at the beginning of the month. What kind of inspiration, what kind of messages are you getting that are coming through for this, right? And for anyone who has a lot of that 12th house Neptunian, Piscean kind of energy, like you do get these messages, right? Like you do have this intuition. You do get messages in a very different way than other people do, right? Well, yeah, I'll leave it there. Let's not get too far into astrology since we're doing tarot. So as we come to the midpoint of the month, right, this is like, I feel like this is kind of like the way that a wave happens. Like this is the crux of the month, right? This is the kind of, can be a peak point, but it can be like a point of interest, a point of pause, especially as we have like different planets in retrograde, not just Mercury. I know Mercury gets a lot of attention whenever it goes into retrograde, but it happens like 3 times a year, like at least 2, but like 3 times a year. So, you know, just allow it to be a point of pausing to revise and revisit and revision what is happening in your life. Now, this midpoint can be very like representative of something like that. And here we have the Two of Stars that's showing up, which would be in a traditional deck the Two of Pentacles or the Two of Coins. So really just like looking at the different options. This can also be about balancing the different areas of your life, right? So balancing like work-life balance or relationship time, like connection and like being in relationship, being in intimate relationships, intimacy versus being in like your self energy and your personal path and what's happening in your life and your identity and how you're growing, right? So we can see that there is this like kind of opposing type of energy and like holding these different spaces. Now, as things are just like being shaken up in the world in whichever ways that they are, sorry you guys, like, she's really trying to get my attention because she wants food. I'm almost done. So as we're like looking at this midpoint of the month, like this is a point of you really trying to weigh out your options and trying to see like how do I balance these different, maybe seemingly disparate aspects of my life or my desires or these parts of myself that want these different things, right? How do I work with and keep myself as balanced and stabilized as I possibly can? Where can I like resource in my life the things that I need to be able to balance maybe multiple things? Or how do I choose? Like you might feel like you need to choose between different options. And so there's this kind of like weighing out that's happening in the space, right? And as we come towards the end of the month, there is, it seems, something that is going to need to be cleared out, right? I know that the Tower card is like, it's really intense, you know, for a lot of people. It's a very scary card to have show up, and especially for a really sensitive, watery type of sign, right? It can feel like too much. It can feel very raw and very tender to be in that Tower moment experience, because it feels like, you know, you can even see like the waves are crashing against the tower, you know, it's on fire because the lightning has struck it. It's like the foundation is coming apart, it's coming down, the tower is coming down. And really what that's indicating is that the foundation, whatever it was that this is about, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a project, a business, whatever it is, the structure of this was not gonna hold. Like it wasn't stable enough to be long lasting. It wasn't gonna stand the test of time. It wasn't going to be able to weather the elements coming forward in the coming months. And so it had to be leveled in order to recreate a structure and to rebuild in a way that had more foundation, more stability, and was going to be more solid, something that felt more secure and safe. So you have the opportunity to do that on the other side of the Tower card. I mean, what we see in the progression of the major arcana, which is actually the hero's journey, right? What we see on the other side of the Tower is actually the Star card. There is this rebirth, there is a being born, there is a hope and a possibility and a new energy of starting life anew, this beautiful, new, clear, clean energy. So it might feel, I usually tell people with the Tower card, it feels more intense when we resist what needs to fall apart, when we're trying to grasp and hold on to having things stay the same, and we see that it hasn't been working and it's not working. I'm not saying give up and acquiesce, but I'm saying like there's an intelligence to allowing things to unfold the way that they need to, and sometimes the unfolding is an undoing. And then from that clearing, from that space that has been leveled and is now clear, you have immense possibility, completely open to create what you want to have and what you want to come through and what feels good to you to come next, right? And so what we're actually getting for your spiritual advice is we have the High Priestess, and we have the Knight of Wands. Knight of Wands is definitely about movement in action, taking action towards what we want to like have manifest in our world, what feels good, what feels creative, where our intuition is driving us towards, where we want to create, where we feel the spark of life, where you feel that radiance, right? It's rushing in, it's that rushing in kind of energy. I'm not telling you to be irresponsible with the rushing in energy, right? Like, but it is that feeling of like, I'm gonna jump into the fray. I'm not going to be afraid. I'm going to be the knight. I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to create that forward move. I'm gonna have the action. It's action. right? Action oriented. So moving forward. Don't get stuck and stagnant because things of like in some kind of indecision space, or because things are maybe falling apart so that they can, you know, come together in a new way. Don't get stuck in that space, or holding on to the past. For some of you, you might be holding on to some like nostalgic idea or some kind of like feeling of how you wanted it to be or what your plans were. Clearly they're not working anymore. So you need to allow the space for them to like be done so that you can move towards what actually feels good and what you want. Now, in part of this is really about using your intuition and coming into a space of really powerful movement with your cerebral aspects and your heart aspects in alignment, right? So again, like this is something that I mentioned in a previous reading today, which is like the high priestess holds the energy and duality in one space. She's able to hold it all. So she can move forward with like the generative energy and to be in a space of flow and receptivity. She is being able to like hold the energy and like do like things that are yang oriented and to be receptive in the yin and to be in that flow, right? This is the masculine and the feminine energy. However you relate to this, right? Like this is the polarity of energy that we experience, and the way that kind of can be in friction, or the way that can work together. So this is really like the high priestess is really about holding all of that energy and being able to come from a space of intuitive alignment with our, with our higher self, with our cerebral faculties, with our heart space, and being complete alignment with all of that. So you're being asked to step forward, to go in a direction of what is to take action and move towards creating what is actually going to be fulfilling and soulful for you, and to use the qualities that you actually have that you can tap into very, very directly as someone who is Neptunian or Piscean or 12th houser. And you can really tap into this kind of energy and make some powerful steps forward and to hold that energy really powerfully. So, don't be discouraged by holding on to the past or anything like that. Don't be stuck in indecision with this space, and definitely don't let yourself don't wallow in what was, if it's torn down or destroyed in some way, because the dissolution, the dissolving of what no longer works, again, allows you to step into more powerfully a vision and create something that is what you want to really be creating. Remember the King of Crystals and what we talked about at the beginning, and that overarching theme for the month of September, right? Bring this in. The High Priestess incorporates this, but bring this in to your energy. All right, Pisces, that's what I have for you for the month of September. So now we have gone through all of the signs. So just so you guys know, if you have watched this with me live, you can rewatch, or you can watch anything that you missed on YouTube. This will be up this week. I'll be, putting this up on YouTube sometime this week for everyone to be able to see. So this is kind of the format I'm doing while I'm in school for psychological astrology, and and then I'll be getting back to doing kind of the format that I was doing about 3 or 4 months ago. So, but for right now, this is what I got. So if you want to book a specific one-to-one reading with me, you can do that by DMing me. You can go to the link in my bio. Or if you're watching this on YouTube, there are links down below. You can also, by the way, get 50% off of a reading with me, a one-to-one reading with me, with a referral link. You can get your own personal referral link. It's like super easy. It literally takes like less than a minute to sign up, and that link is going to be in the description on YouTube as well, so you can check that out. Other than that, thank you guys for joining me. I always have a really fun time doing this. So thank you, and I will see you guys next month. So happy September. All right, you guys. Bye.